The latest 1,000-pound sisters drama has fans asking one huge question. Has the Slayton family finally reached the point of no return? Season 8 has already delivered some of the most intense family conflicts the show has ever seen. Amy Slayton and Tammy Slaton have struggled to repair their relationship, while Chris Combs and Brittany Combs have repeatedly found themselves caught in the middle of the family tension. And now, the conversation surrounding Brittany and Chris has taken a dramatic turn. The phrase, "the Slayton sisters are dead," has exploded among fans, but there is an important detail viewers need to understand. The sisters are not literally dead. The phrase refers to the collapse of the relationship between Amy and Tammy, and the feeling that the bond they once shared may have reached a breaking point. Season 8 has shown just how serious that divide has become. Amy and Tammy have been living increasingly separate lives, with disagreements turning into emotional confrontations. At one point, Amy made it clear that she no longer wanted to continue being treated like someone who had to constantly absorb Tammy's anger and frustration. That tension has placed the entire family in an uncomfortable position. Chris Combs has repeatedly tried to act as the peacekeeper. Rather than watching his sisters continue to fight, Chris has attempted to bring everyone together and encourage them to communicate. But when emotions are running high, even Chris has struggled to keep the family from falling apart. And this is where Brittany becomes an important part of the story. Brittany Combs is not simply Chris's wife standing in the background. Over the years, viewers have watched her become part of the family dynamic, and Season 8 has given audiences another look at her own personal journey. The season premiere even showed Brittany working toward her health goals while struggling to give up sodies ahead of bariatric surgery. Later, Chris celebrated Brittany's weight loss progress with a family barbecue. But Brittany's presence has also placed her close to some of the family's biggest disagreements. For years, fans have debated whether Brittany should become more involved when Chris's siblings clash, or whether she should stay completely outside the conflict. That debate has become even louder whenever Tammy and Brittany appear to disagree. Some viewers believe Brittany has reached her limit with the constant family drama. Others believe that Chris will always feel responsible for trying to keep everyone together. That creates a difficult situation for the couple. If Chris chooses to defend his sisters, Brittany could feel that her husband is putting the extended family ahead of their marriage. But if Chris takes Brittany's side, his sisters could interpret that decision as betrayal. That is exactly why the idea of Brittany cutting Chris out of her life has become such a powerful fan theory. However, there is currently no reliable confirmation that Brittany has permanently ended her marriage with Chris or removed him from her life. In fact, available Season 8 information continues to list both Brittany and Chris among the show's cast. So viewers should separate online speculation from confirmed developments. What is undeniable is that the Slayton family has entered a very different era. Amy is trying to build a future around her marriage, her children, and her personal goals. Tammy is pursuing greater independence and navigating major changes in her relationship with Andrea. Chris continues trying to keep the family connected, while Brittany is working on her own health and personal journey. Everyone is changing at the same time. And when several family members change simultaneously, old relationships can become difficult to maintain. The most heartbreaking part is that Amy and Tammy once built their identity around being sisters who faced everything together. Their weight loss journeys, family struggles, health battles, relationships, and personal setbacks were often shared with each other. Now, that closeness has been replaced by distance. In one of Season 8's most emotional developments, the phrase "the Slayton sisters are dead" captured exactly how serious the relationship breakdown had become. It was not about death. It was about the death of an old version of their relationship. And that distinction matters, because relationships can end without people disappearing from each other's lives completely. Sometimes the version of the relationship people once knew simply stops existing. That may be what fans are witnessing with Amy and Tammy. For Chris, that creates an impossible role. He is Amy's brother. He is Tammy's brother. He is Brittany's husband. Trying to keep peace between everyone means that almost every decision risks upsetting somebody. Brittany, meanwhile, has her own priorities. Her health journey is moving forward. Her relationship with Chris remains under public scrutiny. And the family drama surrounding Tammy and Amy continues to put pressure on everyone connected to them. That is why fans are watching Britney more closely than ever. If Britney eventually decides that she wants stronger boundaries with the Slayton family, that would not necessarily mean she and Chris are finished. It could simply mean that she wants to protect her own peace while Chris handles conflicts involving his siblings. But if future episodes show Chris and Britney choosing completely different sides, that could create a much bigger problem. The biggest question is whether Chris can continue being the family mediator without damaging his own marriage. Season 8 has already shown that peace between Amy and Tammy is fragile. One conversation can turn into an argument. One misunderstanding can reopen old wounds. And one family gathering can bring every unresolved issue back to the surface. That leaves Chris in the middle once again. For now, the dramatic claims that Britney has permanently cut Chris out should be treated as speculation rather than confirmed news. The real story is the growing pressure on the entire family and whether these relationships can survive the changes happening around them. The Slayton sisters are not dead, but the relationship they once had may be changing forever. And if Amy, Tammy, Chris, and Britney cannot find a way to establish boundaries while still supporting one another, the next chapter of 1,000-Pound Sisters could become even more explosive. The family has survived weight loss struggles, health scares, relationship problems, personal disagreements, and years of public attention. Now they are facing something. The tension inside the Combs and Slayton family is becoming impossible to ignore. And the biggest question now is whether Chris Combs can continue standing between the people he loves without losing his own peace. For viewers who have followed 1,000-Pound Sisters for years, Chris has often been viewed as one of the calmer members of the family. He has tried to encourage his sisters, support their goals, and keep disagreements from becoming permanent family disasters. But there is a limit to how much pressure one person can carry. That pressure becomes even more complicated because Chris is married to Britney. Britney has her own life, her own struggles, and her own priorities. She has also spent years watching Chris become emotionally involved in problems that do not always directly concern their marriage. When family disagreements become intense, the person standing in the middle can eventually become exhausted. And that is where fans believe Britney may be drawing a line. The online conversation surrounding Britney and Chris has created countless theories. Some fans believe Britney may eventually refuse to participate in the family's constant conflicts. Others think Chris will continue supporting his sisters regardless of how uncomfortable the situation becomes. Neither possibility should automatically be interpreted as a divorce or permanent separation. But there is something important happening beneath the rumors: boundaries. Boundaries can completely change a family relationship. If Britney decides she no longer wants to attend every family gathering, discuss every disagreement, or become involved whenever Tammy and Amy have problems, that could actually be a way of protecting her marriage rather than ending it. Chris could continue loving and supporting his sisters while Britney chooses to remain outside certain conflicts. The problem begins when one partner feels that the other is constantly being pulled away by family responsibilities. That kind of situation can create resentment. Chris may believe that helping his sisters is simply what family members do. Britney may believe that their marriage deserves equal attention. Neither position necessarily makes one person right and the other wrong. But when emotions are already high, even a small disagreement can become something much bigger. This is especially important because the Slayton family has changed dramatically over the years. When 1,000-Pound Sisters first became popular, Amy and Tammy were almost inseparable. Their lives were closely connected, and their weight loss journeys became a shared experience. Now their circumstances are very different. Amy is raising her children and trying to establish more independence. Tammy has made major changes in her own life and has become more independent as well. Those changes can be positive, but they can also create emotional distance. When siblings grow in different directions, they sometimes discover that the relationship they had as children cannot continue in exactly the same form as adults. That may explain why the phrase, "the Slayton sisters are dead," has become such a dramatic description among viewers. It does not mean Amy or Tammy has died. It represents the idea that the old sisterhood dynamic may be disappearing. And Chris is standing close enough to feel the impact. He remembers what the family was like before fame changed everything. He has seen arguments, reconciliations, health emergencies, celebrations, and personal transformations. Now he has to watch his sisters build lives that may no longer include each other as much as they once did. That can be painful for a brother. At the same time, Chris cannot force Amy and Tammy to become close again. He can encourage communication. He can offer support. He can listen. But ultimately, the sisters have to decide what kind of relationship they want. This is where Brittany's position could become extremely important. If she encourages Chris to stop trying to solve every family problem, she may not be trying to separate him from his sisters. She could simply be asking him to stop carrying responsibility for relationships that belong to other people. That distinction could completely change how viewers interpret their situation. There is also another possibility. What if Chris refuses to step back? What if he feels that abandoning his sisters would be worse than creating tension at home? That could put Brittany in an incredibly difficult position. She could feel forced to choose between accepting the situation or demanding a change. And once couples begin making demands about family relationships, the emotional stakes can become much higher. Still, there is no confirmed evidence that Brittany has permanently removed Chris from her life. There is also no reliable confirmation that their marriage has ended. Those claims should therefore remain in the category of online speculation unless the family or an official source confirms something different. What viewers can actually see is a family dealing with changing relationships and complicated emotions. That story may not be as simple as Brittany versus Chris. It may be about Chris learning that he cannot rescue everyone. It may be about Brittany learning how to support her husband without becoming responsible for his family's problems. And it may be about Amy and Tammy realizing that being sisters does not mean they have to agree about everything. The future of this family could depend on one simple question. Can they establish boundaries without turning those boundaries into permanent walls? Because once people stop talking, misunderstandings become much easier. One person believes they are protecting themselves. Another believes they are being rejected. Someone else believes they are defending the family. And suddenly, everyone feels like the victim. That is why the next developments surrounding Chris and Brittany could be so important. If they remain united while maintaining distance from certain family conflicts, the current tension could eventually calm down. But if disagreements inside the family begin affecting their marriage directly, viewers could see an entirely different kind of crisis. For now, the safest conclusion is that the internet has taken a complicated family situation and turned it into an explosive headline. The reality appears to be more complicated. Brittany has her own goals. Chris has his responsibilities. Amy has her own life. Tammy is continuing her transformation. And none of them can return to the exact version of the family they had years ago. Maybe that is the real meaning behind. The latest discussion surrounding Chris Combs and Brittany has opened up a completely different question. What happens when a reality TV family becomes too complicated for everyone involved? For years, audiences have watched the Combs and Slayton families experience major changes in front of cameras. Some moments have been funny, some emotional, and others extremely uncomfortable. But the biggest challenge may be happening away from the dramatic headlines. Chris has spent a large portion of his adult life connected to his sister's struggles. Whether the issue involved health, relationships, arguments, or major life decisions, Chris often found himself involved. That role can make someone feel important to the family, but it can also become exhausting. Imagine constantly receiving calls whenever relatives are fighting. Imagine being expected to explain one person's behavior to another. Imagine trying to calm everyone down while knowing that whichever side you support, someone may become angry with you. That is the environment Chris has repeatedly faced, and Brittany has had to watch it happen. Her position is particularly interesting because she is connected to the family through marriage rather than being one of the siblings who grew up inside the same household. That difference can create a completely different perspective. Brittany may see situations differently from Chris because she is not carrying the same childhood history. Chris knows every argument that happened years ago. He remembers old family wounds. He understands why certain comments immediately trigger another argument. Brittany may simply see the current situation and wonder why everyone cannot move forward. That difference in perspective can create tension between a husband and wife, even when both people have good intentions. It also explains why some viewers believe Brittany could eventually become less involved in family events. Again, that does not automatically mean she is leaving Chris. It could simply mean she wants fewer arguments around her. There's a major difference between ending a relationship and refusing to participate in unnecessary drama. That difference often disappears on social media, where complicated family situations are reduced to dramatic headlines. A rumor becomes a claim. A claim becomes a video title. And suddenly viewers believe something has been officially confirmed when it has not. The same thing is happening with the Brittany permanently cuts Chris out storyline. There is no reliable confirmation that Brittany has permanently ended her relationship with Chris. So the more interesting story is not whether a dramatic split has already happened. The interesting story is whether pressure from the family could eventually test their marriage. Every marriage has moments when outside problems become personal. For Chris and Brittany, those outside problems can come from the people closest to them. If Tammy needs Chris, he may feel obligated to help. If Amy has a disagreement with another family member, Chris may want to understand what happened. If another crisis appears, everyone may expect Chris to step in. But Brittany may also need her husband's attention. That creates a balancing act. And balancing family loyalty with marital responsibility is not easy. There's another factor that makes this situation even more complicated: fame. Before the family became television personalities, disagreements could happen privately. Now every argument can become a topic of public discussion. Fans analyze facial expressions. They examine social media posts. They compare family members. They search for clues in every episode. That level of attention can make ordinary family disagreements feel enormous. A couple can have a private disagreement and work it out the next day. But when thousands of viewers are discussing that disagreement online, the pressure can continue long after the original argument is finished. For Brittany and Chris, that public pressure can be particularly challenging. They are not just dealing with each other. They are also dealing with an audience that already has opinions about their relationship. Some viewers automatically support Chris because of his history with his sisters. Others defend Brittany because they believe she deserves to have her own boundaries. And some fans simply want to see the family stay together. That creates three completely different perspectives. But reality television rarely gives viewers the complete picture. A scene might show a few minutes of an argument, while the family has been dealing with the issue for weeks. A short conversation can look much more explosive after editing. That is why viewers should be careful before deciding that a marriage is finished based solely on social media rumors or dramatic headlines. The real test for Chris and Brittany would be what happens when the cameras are gone. Can they talk privately? Can they disagree without threatening their relationship? Can Chris support his sisters while still prioritizing his marriage? Can Brittany express her concerns without feeling like she is attacking Chris's family? Those questions matter much more than any sensational rumor. Meanwhile, Amy and Tammy face their own challenge. Their relationship cannot depend entirely on Chris fixing everything. At some point, the sisters must take responsibility for their own communication. They may never return to the relationship they had years ago. But that does not necessarily mean they cannot create a healthier relationship in the future. Sometimes siblings become closer after accepting that they are different people. They stop trying to control each other. They stop expecting constant agreement. And they learn when to step back. That could be the direction this family eventually takes. Instead of forcing everyone to spend time together, they may discover that some distance actually reduces conflict. Chris could remain supportive without becoming the family referee. Brittany could remain connected without being pulled into every disagreement. Amy and Tammy could maintain their sibling relationship without depending on each other for every decision. If that happens, the family could become healthier than it has been in years. But if old arguments continue repeating themselves, the pressure could become even greater. And that is why fans are watching the upcoming developments so closely. The biggest story may not be a dramatic breakup. It may be the slow transformation of a family that has spent years living under the same spotlight. People are growing. Relationships are changing.